each other in the playoffs, in the NHL past. 3 solid seasons of American Hockey League work against each other just the same. Tonight's game puck delivered on time by Luggage Express, the official luggage delivery service of the NHL to deliver your luggage on time. Visit 866shipbags.com. As we get rolling, it is the Sabres in the homestanding blue sweaters with Chris Drury firing the first salvo, cuffed away by Ray Emery. Ottawa in the traveling white. This Senators team has been very, very tough to beat on the road in the last 2 playoff springs.
4-1 this year as a road team are the Ottawa Senators. You're going to have success when you've disposed of both your opponents in 5 games, Joe.
Right off the bat, Sabre fans getting themselves introduced to Ray Emery, sing-songing his last name. As Henrik Tallinder works back through center, Lindy Ruff, the head coach for the Sabres, will make the line change. Both teams in the midst of personnel changes as we are scoreless and just underway in minute number 1, game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final. The Stanley Cup playoffs continue on Versus. Mike Fisher working down the wing. Teppo Numminen is there to trigger the breakout for Buffalo. Tim Connolly will pitch it back to center. And Anton Volchenkov able to muddy the water quickly. Alesh Kotelik advancing for Buffalo. Looking to the wide side for Numminen. Right through the paint. As Kotelik hopes to keep it in, he'll have to recoil.
And that's something to watch for with this Buffalo Sabres team. Pucks to the net.
Kotelik driving back with Briere. An aerial feed that's collected at the point position by Campbell. Chris Phillips working in back. A standout blue liner for Brian Murray. Phillips has been ultra steady in the first 2 rounds of the postseason. Campbell mugging it up in the corner. You get a great look at it. Chris Kelly putting on the forecheck along with Antoine Vermette. Kelly comes back to point position for Corvo. Long wrister on the way, knocked aside by Ryan Miller.
Both goalies, long rebounds on their first touches. A little bit of nerves there, maybe.
Sabres' top goal getter is Thomas Vanek. Moving in, trying to work wide on pricing. No sale. Spot check. Chops one towards the cage, deflected down, and Vanek was lurking for the rebound. Vanek spins one towards the cage, now collects it. Corvo puts the lasso on him. O'Finniganov playing hide and seek, looking to stop. Came right through the paint. O'Finniganov gets another chance. Sabres putting on some pressure. Campbell activating their high-scoring blue liner, along with Derek Roy. Roy trying to finagle around Corvo, nothing doing. Roy spins and fires. The Ottawa native working against his hometown team for the Sabres. Roy keeping it in the attack territory for just a second, and then Kelly will swat it back to neutral. Approaching the 3-minute marker to scoreless first. Down goes Roy. Up comes the arm of referee Bill McCreary, and the game's first power play belongs to Buffalo.
A spinning, whirling dervish type of start for Buffalo. Keys of the game. Watch for the Sabres to shoot from everywhere. That's when they're at their best. If they get over 32 shots on goal, watch for them. Senators' big line, we talked about in the open. Heatley, Spezza, Alfredson, they have to be there. And hit or be hit, both teams have to have a physical presence to their game. Look at Tom Pricing in. We're upending Derek Roy as he came spinning across that blue line.
Briere, Drury, and Zubris across the top for Buffalo. Working 5-on-4 here. Connolly and Campbell in back to see the special teams effectiveness for these 2 groups. Buffalo would love to see that power play come to life. Campbell looking to energize it. Spins it into the corner. Zubris working hard against Alfredson. Rakes it on back to the point position. Volchenkov drawing a bead on Briere. Connolly hands it down low. It was intercepted. Here's a short-handed chance for McCammon. Racing in. Fires, and Miller able to stay strong and cover up.
And that's why it's not always about the numbers. McCammon in on the breakaway. Tough pass inside the offensive zone by the Buffalo Sabres. Here's the bounce pass. That might be good in the key in basketball. It's not good when you're a flat-footed forward at the blue line. Connolly can't get it. In goes McCammon. The big save by Ryan Miller. It's not always about the numbers. Miller, huge saves in this postseason.
On that bounce pass, poor Tim Connolly's stomach's practically in his throat. As Antoine Vermette draws it back for Phillips. The long wrister on the way, deflected wide. Vermette is dangerous shorthanded. Only Marian Hossa in Atlanta with more shorthanded goals the last couple seasons, aside from 20 in the white for Ottawa.
Offensive flair, the license to go, and good speed. All there for Vermette.
High over the head of Kalinin and back into Miller's neighborhood. Vermette using those wheels to get there ahead of Alesh Kodali. Retreat Kalinin will stop. These two teams, Northeast Division rivals. They squared off 8 times during the regular season. It's the only playoff series between division rivals. The first one to date, and obviously it will be the last after one of these teams emerges to the Stanley Cup final. Sabres in the blue. Good-looking pass back for Kalinin. Shaded there by Schaefer. Rister coming, pad save Emery. Follow-up chance was just dumped wide. Vanek is so tough to handle, hovering in front. Fisher makes the steal and he's in solo. Fisher waltzing in, he scores! Mike Fisher!
You want to call it uneven. That power play was an uneven start for the Buffalo Sabres. Mike Fisher with the steal. Little more patience. He waited for Miller. Watch, he waits for Miller to open up and move to his left and then finds a space between the pads. Fine two-way hockey player. There's Mike Fisher. I talked to him this morning. He says, we truly believe. We, in the past, maybe didn't. Now we do. But we elevated our game come postseason time.
Just reflecting back to one of your keys to the game and throughout this series, the physical play. Expect Mike Fisher to be banging the drum for Ottawa in that regard in this series.
You keep it under wraps so you hit with a purpose, and that purpose is to separate the speedy offensive Buffalo Sabres from the puck. And he's one of those guys that can do that.
Ottawa gets pricing back from the penalty box. And they are even strength 5-on-5. Mazzaros at one point position. Winds and fires. That was knocked away. Drury trying to channel it back out. Heatley, the 2-time 50 goal getter, forced back by Tallinder. Henrik Tallinder jumps up into the rush. To the front for Hesht, and he ripped it high. Jochen Hesht found a seam. Zubris, good move. One more for Kostad, and he, too, looking for the roof. Buzzed that one off the glass. Sabres trying to answer that Ottawa shorthanded marker. 5.5 minutes gone by. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final.
Oh, what a hit by Kostad.
We expect the bodies to fly throughout. Another long lead. A semi-break for Alfredson, and he was badgered from behind. Good work by fellow Swede Tallinder. Heatley pulls the trigger. That was blocked. Kostad took that one in the ankle. And remember, he's back after a lengthy ankle injury.
And it's his left ankle that he's favoring, Joe. That's the one that had to have surgery.
Oleg Saprikin working with it. There's a delayed penalty call. A cross-check has been spotted by veteran referee Bill McCreary. And he doesn't want any lip from the Ottawa bench.
Ottawa number 15, minor penalty for cross-checking.
That's not the kind of penalty Danny Heatley wants to take. When we talk about hit or be hit, Lindy Ruff knows that the Ottawa Senators want to wear them down. But if Ottawa takes undisciplined hitting penalties, that won't serve them well either.
Lindy Ruff's squad, soon to go a man to the good. They are trailing here on home ice. Mike Fisher on the shorthanded breakaway at 4:32. Joe Beninati, Darren Elliott, Bob Harwood with you this evening from HSBC Arena. Campbell will send it back. It's held there by Ray Emery on the reversal. Brian Campbell looking to point position for Connolly. He'll shake it outside. Briere trying to penetrate that Ottawa D. So stout again is Volchenko. Connolly with Kelly without his stick. Briere working the two-man game. Vermette a good job defensively. And Volchenkov will stride back through center and be happy to play it in there deep. Sabres center / winger Paul Kostad went to the dressing room. He was hobbled by that shot. It appeared to be a leg injury. Alfredson will scoop it. Phillips will skate it to safety and play it on for Dean McCammon. McCammon swings the cage. Looking for a little help, and he'll play it all the way back into Emery's zone. That bad pass will work out just fine as the Sabres have 55 seconds with which to work on the power play. 1-0 for Ottawa if you're just tuning in. taking some of the starch out of the sellout crowd at HSBC Arena.
And doing it shorthanded and doing it again here. The penalty killers of the Senators have been much sharper than the power play of the Sabres in the early going.
Mazzaros hooks it on back. There's Fisher again. Nick Fisher through the penalty. Yeah. As Emery skates to the bench, we are going to have some 4-on-4 hockey. Referee Brad Watson says hooking.
Just jumping.
Buffalo 45, 2 minutes hooking.
Kalinin goes to the box, caught flat-footed again. Mike Fisher right in his grill, playing Tuffle on the boards. In comes Kalinin to play Fisher, who's protecting the puck so well.
Dmitry Kalinin, 26-year-old Russian, boxed in there for hooking. As we go 4-on-4 for the next 32. Rapidly, we are approaching the 8-minute mark of this first period. Mike Fisher has staked visiting Ottawa to the lead. Connolly looking to recapture. On for Teppo Numminen. This pass for Jason Pominville flexed away by Volchenkov, and Fisher will do the honors to send it back.
And that
could be an interference call.
Yeah.
They are calling it strictly by the book. 7 minutes, 43 seconds to go. And gone by. Fisher on the board and getting the heroes welcome at the bench for Ottawa.
Welcome back to Buffalo. Sabres trail 1-0. Actually on a shorthanded situation. I guess Yaroslav Spacek, that's a tough one to swallow early.
Yeah, for sure. We had a couple of chances we couldn't score, and after we got 2 breakaways, they scored from 1. Yeah.
Do you have a sense of how fast you're going to be on the breakout against this team? They're very athletic on the forecheck.
Oh, we got to read the forecheck, and some guys got to stay back a little bit, and those guys cheating a lot, so you just got to make sure we cover them.
No, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Ottawa goes to a manpower advantage here. Corbo for Alfredsson. He scores! Daniel Alfredsson with a rocket.
The captain, comfortable, uncomfortable are the men in the box for the Buffalo Sabres. Undisciplined were the penalties, and Alfredsson makes them pay immediately. Corbo just gets the puck to the middle, and then lays a beautiful soft pass that can be one time. 10 seconds into that 4-on-3 session. The Sens erupt. The Sabres are silenced here at HSBC Arena.
Daniel Alfredsson, who has been laser locked on that net in the first few weeks of these Stanley Cup playoffs, continues his hot streak. Darren, it's the first time he has ever scored playoff goals in 3 straight games.
First time ever, as you said. But the biggest thing to me, we talked to Brian Murray, head coach this morning. Joe Corbo, moving his feet, put on the first power play unit. It said it gave him confidence, and he played better since that time in his overall game. He's a lugger of the puck. You see him right there, but he really quarterbacked that power play beautifully.
And perhaps a chance to rub some salt into the wound. Ottawa still skates 5-on-4 now. That was a 4-on-3 power play strike. Connolly serves another 120 in the box for Buffalo. Ottawa and the traveling Whites, the Eastern Conference Final, the Stanley Cup playoffs on versus. Rolling along here, this is game 1 at HSBC Arena. And 2 tallies for the Sens, Fisher and Alfredsson, shorthanded and power play respectively. Drury trying to answer, poke check by Wade Redden. NHL All-Star blue liner who's getting more and more ice time and eating it up. Spezza hooks it back. Alfredsson drills it right to the midsection, and Ryan Miller will squeeze.
That was a save, but it was Alfredsson. 10 seconds in. Watch the shooting angle. Perfect pass that can be stepped into. Oh, short side, perfect screen. Watch the goaltender. Miller has Spezza jumping in front of him. He has his own men trying to defend. Nothing he can do as Alfredsson finds that space just inside the near post.
Darren, the Senators just have the knack for scoring on the power play against Buffalo this year. Mazzaros looking to add to his marks, and a sliding defensive play was turned in there by Pominville.
They have been good. Lindy Ruff wasn't really sure why, but they've been good on the road. We talked about their success in this postseason. Over 33% coming in on the road on the power play. That'll win you a lot of games in the postseason, and they're showing why here already.
Mike Comrie, who's been nursing a shoulder injury this week, passed it to the front, was glanced away by Pominville. As the Sabres try to put some life back into the HSBC faithful, a sellout crowd, nearly 19,000 of them were sitting on their hands for a moment as Ottawa came right out of the chute with a pair of tallies. And they're not alone. About 5,000 more partying on the plaza outside, watching it on the big screen.
Tremendous support. Bob talked about it in our open, a love affair with their team. It's a community team. It's just a great sense to be part of.
Good news for the Sabres and their fans. Paul Gaustad, 28 in the blue, is back out there after taking that slap shot in the lower leg. Gaustad's ankle injury in early February was sustained against the Senators. It was Danny Heatley's skate that actually severed that ankle tendon.
A little freak accident, but tremendous recovery because of all his work in terms of doing the rehab.
Both teams back to full strength, 5-on-5. Schaefer drifting back behind the cage. On top for Phillips. Deflection try, Schaefer, and good movement by Miller to answer the redirect.
That's a big save there, Joe. Timely. And one thing that Ryan Miller is expected, when the ref told us early in these playoffs, we expect him to make saves. We're going to take some chances. And he's been up to the task last year and this year. Save percentage, incredible.
You got to like that .935 and outdueling Henrik Lundqvist and the Rangers back in round 2.
And that's where I say those are gaudy numbers, but numbers don't really tell the whole story with Ryan Miller. His team takes some chances offensively. It leaves him exposed at times. They're not the shot blocking machine that they were last year. They're more mobile on the back line. He has to make more quality saves than he did a year ago.
And I think he relishes that opportunity.
Yes.
Volchenkov sends it around. Neal dummies it back on through onto the Sabres side of the table. 9.5 to go in this first period. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final exclusively on Versus. Galloping back through center. Volchenkov's feed for Vermette gets away. Campbell retracing his steps along with Yaroslav Spacek. Forechecking coming from Kelly. Maxima Finneganov darting into the offensive zone. Looks for help now. Finneganov pawns it off back to point position. Kalinin waits. Through the screen. Stop. Rebound. Score! Of Finneganov. And here we go again. High scoring in game 1.
Inside of Finneganov and the faithful. You saw the outside celebratory. Good puck movement. Finneganov off that left wing. He calls for it. And it's not a direct pass. They put it on net because he's wide open. It goes right to him. What a great look from our Nikon goal cam. Ray Emery battling in front. Gets a piece of it. Perfect rebound position by Maxima Finneganov, and the Sabres, as they so often do, Joe, answer back.
Darren, you're exactly right. Vanek has to get praised for staying there on top of the crease, absorbing that little jab from Emery, bothering the Senator netminder, and Buffalo gets back on the board. Finneganov's third of the postseason at 10:55, and that will start the sing-song Emery. Jochen Hesch for Buffalo. On for Dinas Zubris. Mid-season acquisition right at the trade deadline via the Washington Capitals, and send it in there. Zubris has been a hitting machine in this postseason. Working as a trio with Jochen Hesch and Chris Drury for the moment. Lazaros legs it back through center for Ottawa. On for Spezza, the assist leader for this team. Spezza will turn. On the dump down, both teams in the midst of a change. Ludman sends it along. Gaustad will feather it behind Emery's crease. Forechecking persists. Pominville got after Volchenkov. Schaefer reels it along. Fisher will play it into the corner. Gaustad first to it for Buffalo. Volchenkov wheeling one to the slot. That's booted away by Teppo Numminen. Even strength, 5-on-5, 2-1. Senators over the Sabres. When these teams met a season ago in the second round, game 1 was 7-6 in OT. There's a chance for Pominville, denied by Emery, and it stays 2-1 Senators with a little pushing and shoving. Maxima Finneganov, a familiar sight in Buffalo.
Ottawa, late first period on the Senators bench with Wade Redden. I think we're seeing punch, counter punch, and that's not a surprise, is it?
No, it was good. We got a good start. Killed a few penalties, got a few big goals, so we know they're going to keep coming, but we got to keep it going. We got a good start, want to keep it rolling.
Where were you trying to snuff out their speed, Wade?
I think starting their end, if we can get in and get them slow, get in their face a bit, not let them wind it up, that's going to work in our favor.
Wade, thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Joe.
Wade and Bob, thank you. Brian Murray, Wade Redden's head coach, is saying that Redden plays his best when he keeps his feet moving, and we expect this to be a track meet type of series as both teams have excellent wheels. Play is in the Buffalo offensive zone, 7.5 minutes away from a Dodge intermission report. We'll be checking back in Hockey Central with Bill Clement, Keith Jones, and Brian Engblom. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Fisher leans in, he's turned away. Vanek looking to counterpunch with Roy. Intercepting that was Redden. Feeds Comrie for the big blazer that shrugged aside by Ryan Miller. Maxima Finneganov out there for Buffalo, the last man on the board. Fisher and Alfredson have struck already for Ottawa. It's 2-1 if you're just tuning in with us.
Special teams for the Senators, a shorthanded goal, a power play goal, even strength, no surprise. The two highest scoring teams in the National Hockey League. Buffalo, the best team at even strength this season.
What was I reading earlier in the day? It's the first time in 30 years that the two highest scoring teams in the NHL regular season have met as late as a conference final or Stanley Cup final.
Last time was 2001, but it's been
just
2 times in 30.
Yeah. Just once in 30 years. Now you got me. You did your homework better than I. As Vermette moving in. Erased quickly by Codely. Spot check. Looping it high off of the glass and out of play with 6:20 to go in the first. Folks, the NHL playoffs on Versus tomorrow night, 7:30, a Western showdown on Versus. Game 1, top-seeded Detroit, living up to that #1 ranking, tangling with the Ducks. They've been more than mighty, they've been great. Ducks, Red Wings, live from Hockeytown tomorrow. Then we're back here Saturday, 8 o'clock Eastern. Senators and Sabres will go at it in Game 2. The Stanley Cup playoffs exclusively on Versus at this level at the conference final. Ottawa and Buffalo. Corvo's long wrister was deflected well wide. Spetzel teaming up with Alfredson. Zubris able to deflect that away and start back German-born winger Jochen Hesch. Hesch stapled against the window there by Corvo. Point position, that pass intended for Ludman. Splits the gap of the top D pair for Lindy Ruff. Henrik Tolinder and Tony Ludman expect to get all the difficult matchups, as many as they can handle in this series.
And that usually particularly means against the Ottawa Senators, the Spetzel line that we talked about in our open.
Adam Mayer jamming along the boards. McCammon working down the wing. Snap wrister went high and wide. 5:25 to go in our first period. Pominville charging back with Gaustad and at the line. It is offside. Stay with us on the other side of the break. Bill Clement at Hockey Central on Versus. Okay, Bill, thanks very much. We'll look forward to that once we are done with 20 minutes in regulation time here at HSBC Arena. There's the man who started the scoring spree in the first for Ottawa. Mike Fisher on a shorthanded breakaway, waltzing in to beat Ryan Miller.
What a start he had. He scores a shorty. He draws a penalty. He lays a big hit on Tim Connolly. That's about as good as it gets.
Finnegan off backside looking for Vanek, and it's snatched out of the air by Ray Emery. 2-1 in this hockey game, and here's a review.
Short-handed, second breakaway on that first power play. They were ready. Then on the power play, 4-on-3, Alfredson, he was ready. But as always, the Buffalo Sabres able to answer back a rebound for Maxima Finneganov.
These two teams pressure-packed, of course, in the Eastern Conference Final, and during the regular season, they battled 8 times. Ottawa prevailed in 5 of those. And of course, there was that fight-filled brawl game, if you will, in late February. All triggered by a Chris Neal hit on Chris Drury. Both sides were saying, you know what, that's so far in the rear view mirror they forget about it.
Not so sure about that. Well, it's just below the surface. They can't have it bubble to the surface because it will detract from what they're trying to accomplish. But it's there.
Vanek jimmies it free. Roy pumps one wide of Emery. Had him leaning. Kelly with a good reversal, and that will allow Phillips to play it on for Vermette. 4.5 to go in this first period. 2-1 for the Sens. Roy moves it along for a Finneganov. Tried to come board to board. Picking it back up there, 43 goal getter Vanek during the regular season. Lindy Ruff barking for the line change. As Redden zooms out of his own zone. Spezza driving the defense off. Tried to play it for the captain Alfredson. Nothing doing. Drury's speed pops back onto the Ottawa side. Heatley, who works in concert so well with Spezza, will channel back on for 11 in the white. That's Alfredson. Overlapping on the play, walking in. Heatley tries the backhander and it was denied. Tallinder lunged to make the defensive stop. Tallinder then steers this one to the wing. 5-on-5 play continues for Dinas Zubras. Zubras drops it off. Hesh pass for Tallinder, spun him around. Zubras working the wall, Redden jams in. 3.5 to go in this first. This Buffalo team that's been so good in Game 1 of a Stanley Cup playoff series under Lindy Ruff's direction.
12-3 overall, and part of it because of the fine work of goaltender Ryan Miller. 5-0. All 5 playoff series that he's started in, he has the win in first game of series. That's a nice way to get things underway. It's vital. You can set the tone in this first hockey game.
Sabres trying to get their forechecking game in gear. Kodalik, who brings a 230-pound hammer with him when he goes to the boards. Campbell trickles it on through Schubert. Connolly with that deft touch, nearly sending Briere in. Spacek keeping an eye on Saprikin. Campbell pivots. Ryan Campbell led all NHLD in terms of even strength points. Deflection try for Schubert, and that was snagged by Ryan Miller. Back in February, this huge hit triggers some bad blood.
Chris Neal with the shrug shot, shoulder on the chin. Lindy Ruff didn't like it, nor did anybody else. Ray Emery, the goaltender, he gets in it with the now departed Marty Biron. They didn't trade him because he couldn't fight. Chris Neal instigating all that with that big hit. He had some interesting comments today. Chris Drury says it's forgotten. To me, Chris Neal says, I had to fight the 2 tough guys. It's a long time ago. How much more do I have to answer about this?
Nothing close to any fisticuffs in the first 17 minutes, although there is a penalty call coming here for tripping.
And this is what Chris Neal's talking about. He says, I've answered all that I have to do on the ice. I have fought their tough guys. I have done what I was supposed to do. But the media won't let it go. Well, because we know just below the surface, the bad blood exists, and Mike Comrie, he's not going to get rave reviews from his bench for that tripping penalty off a faceoff. There's Chris Neal. He is the top hitting player in the National Hockey League. Some of them legal, some of them questionable, but he just says, quote unquote, I back down from nothing.
I love it. He turned into a little kid earlier in the day. He said, you know what? If they're not booing me, I get worried. I want them to boo me. I think it's awesome when they boo me, he said.
He knows his game is to not back down, to play right on that edge, and try to define where that line is and try not to cross it, but also get under the skin of the opposition.
As the Sabres will look for a late first period tying tally on the power play. Another 128 to work with as Connolly set sail. Tim Connolly working on the outside with Campbell to drive back. Phillips chips it along. Time for McCammon. And an open corridor to play it all the way back to Ryan Miller.
This might seem obvious because the power play of the Buffalo Sabres has really seemed out of sync, but the gap between the players, there's not a lot of puck support. Center's able to get to the loose pucks very easily.
In the playoffs, their penalty killing on the road's been outstanding. Vanek tables it. Campbell closing. Backside, that was deflected away. Alfredson got into the act. Sabres here at home in the blue sweaters, down 1. Long drive, nearly deflected by Roy. 40 seconds with which to work on the power play. Nice chip there by a Finneganov. Pominville, one of the 430 goal getters for the Sabres during the regular season. That led the lead. Redden pinched along the boards. 4 players in the scrum. Vanek comes back. Pominville lets it go off the boot of Alfredson. Under a minute to play in this opening period. Alfredson hiding behind the D. Sharp angle. Double teamed. And Alfredson at the tail end of his shift will need a breather. On the regroup. Tallinder with those long strides. Surrounded there by Senator penalty killers. Just now Comrie up at the penalty box door. This is a 3-on-3. Fisher on the drop pass. Schaefer fires, and that's snatched by Miller as he trapped it against his side.
I'll tell you right now, the Buffalo Sabres getting some quality saves from Ryan Miller. Ludman, Tallinder, and the rest of the Sabres excellent at even strength. A little bit wobbly when they have the extra man. And I have to give full marks to the Senators. Their quick strike capability. They are putting pressure on anybody who's out there on that power play.
Spezza off this draw. It bounces to the wing. Hard hitting along the woodwork. Schubert rattles some fillings there. Tallinder tracked by Spezza. Final 15 seconds in period 1. 2-1 for the Senators. Spezza trying to enhance that lead late. Volchenkov hammers one, and that's a routine save for Ryan Miller.
And that might be the best forechecking shift the Senators have had at even strength this entire first period. And it comes off a 1 faceoff. They keep the zone. No traffic in front allows Ryan Miller to see it and snare it easily. But again, the Senators got in the rhythm of their offense on the forecheck after a strong penalty kill.
Both these teams, all the dressing rooms, as you look at Miller's numbers, they were saying how the forecheck triggers the offense, loosens the defense up, creates scoring opportunities.
They all include 5 men in the offense.
Drury, top 5 in the NHL in terms of winning faceoffs, won that one late in the frame, and that's going to do it. We are 1/3 of the way through regulation in Buffalo. It's game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final exclusively on Versus. Ray Emery outdoing Ryan Miller to this point. The Senators potting 2 tallies in the first 8 minutes of the game and holding a 1-goal lead after 1. Sabres, Senators, 4th time that they've ever matched up. As we squirrel you back off to Hockey Central in a moment, the Dodge Intermission Report. Bill Clement, Keith Jones, Brian Engblom coming your way on Versus. Their power play has worked magic against the Sabres, who've given up the most power play goals of any team in the postseason.
It's a little bit perplexing, you know, in terms of the Sabres and what they've done with their penalty kill. It's going to have to bone up and get better here for this series.
2 teams even, Steven, as we start period number 2 in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final. You see it exclusively with NHL coverage on Versus. Daniel Alfredson marked by Dinas Zubris. The Zubris-Drury-Hesht line expected to be the matchup line against the talented trio for the Senators whenever Lindy Ruff can get it. As Alfredson maneuvers away from Ludman. On top for Mazzaros, booming drive deflected down. Tough angle rebound there for Heatley, and it was still stopped by Ryan Miller.
Short-handed to start this game. Fisher, and this is actually the second breakaway, but it's the first goal of the game. Short-handed. Alfredson with the bobble. Handle to McCammon, and that was the same power play. So before anybody says I was being obvious when I said their penalty kill is going to have to get better, the Buffalo Sabres, Ottawa has seen something they can exploit, and Buffalo is going to have to get better on the special team.
The Senators are always looking to be opportunistic in that regard. Senators and Canadians led the NHL in terms of shorthanded goals during the regular campaign. Buffalo in the blue, the President's Trophy winners, 113 points. Wrist shot coming, it's high from Schaefer.
And that's an interesting number, because that's the exact same number that the Senators had last year. And it's a matter of true role reversal.
Ottawa says, you know what? That's right. Underdog role. We like it. Pad save. Follow-up chance. And another good one as Comrie blazed that one to Ryan Miller.
Quality saves again against this Senators team, Joe, that you were talking about. They built to this point, and that shows you that 37-8 mark. is what I say when they built. They started out, they struggled, they made a couple of moves, but if you talk to their manager, John Muckler, Brian Murray, the maturation of Danny Heatley and Jason Spezza made all the difference in the world for this team.
Becoming more well-rounded overall in the rink. Able to be used in every situation. There were a lot of people who left Ottawa for dead come December time. They were languishing in 5th in the Northeast Division. Raced on back, though, with terrific second-half numbers.
They had a bunch of injuries, and that forced them to have to use everybody, and that proved their depth. And so when everybody got healthy, they knew that they had a complete hockey team.
A delayed penalty call against the Sabres. That's why you see that net empty. Ray Emery's gone for the extra attacker. Kelly clears it in there deep. Miller will slow it down, and the Senators go a man to the good. The referees tonight are Brad Watson and Bill McCreary. And they're not popular right now in Buffalo.
No, you see the holding indication by referee Watson. The free hand. Derek Roy goes to the penalty box. Ottawa with a big chance. And you could see at 5-on-5, the first 2 shifts of this second period, you know it was talked about. Roy takes the penalty. Ottawa skating very well, getting some good looks in the first couple of shifts at even strength.
Spezza digging in, bending to the task against Drury. Face-off control by Ottawa in the traveling white in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final. Drury with an active stick in the passing lane took that one away from Corvo. Drury feeds the wing. Zubris had already vacated that side. And Alfredson will take his time to shimmy ahead. Ottawa's power play improving in the postseason, as you can see. Only the Rangers with a better effectiveness overall. The Rangers dispatched by the Sabres in 6 in round 2. Redden maneuvering in along with Spezza. Heatley keeping it to the outside. Turnover. Alfredson tried to make one more pass. That was thwarted. Skated to safety by Zubris, and he is knocked down to the deck. Talinder did not clear. Alfredson settles. Scoops it on back. Corvo pumps one wide. A bullet from Joe Corvo. Heatley will reload. Scoops it on. Redden and Corvo playing catch at the point. Redden lets it fly. Deflected down. Heatley backhands it wide. Jason Spezza, 19 in the white, had 5 power play goals against the Sabres this season. Long bid from Corvo, answered by Miller. And up for Ottawa, another 40 seconds worth as the Sabres will send him packing.
Well, I can see it from that last sequence. Ottawa's success against the Buffalo Sabres. And Buffalo in the postseason, they lost every little puck battle in their own zone.
Schaefer drifted that one too high. Comrie battling along the board. Schaefer gets it back. Trying to work there with the pricing, and it's spun all the way down by Tim Connolly. Sabres will get Derek Roy from the penalty box in 13 seconds. Joe Beninati, Darren Elliott, Bob Harwood with you tonight from HSBC Arena in Buffalo. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final exclusively on Versus. Ottawa in the traveling white on top 2-1, all the goals back in the first. Jochen Hesch driving back, 4-on-3 for the Sabres, who are back at even strength. Connolly looking for the late guy. Wrister on the way. It was sent wide as it was Jochen Hesch spotted up in that circle.
That's when Tim Connolly reminds you so much of the basketball point guard. He brings it in, gets dribble drive penetration, then always looks for the open man.
And great vision, too. 2-1 Senators. Rinkside, here's Bob Harwood.
Guys, some more insight in terms of Ottawa's top line. It does look like it's numbers telling the story, and certainly from first round to second, the numbers got a little bit bigger in terms of productivity and spreading the offense around. But Darren, we talked to Brian Murray this morning, and Joe as well, about how deeper they've gotten in their play, especially the 2 young kids, Spezza and Heatley on the wings. And really, that's allowed Daniel Alfredson to become a more complete player. As Murray said, now he can do things physically, especially that just a hockey player wants to go out and do, because there's so much more responsibility on the flanks, or at least in terms of the 2 young guys. So balance at one end, more responsibility and toughness at the other for their top line.
Yeah, Brian Murray said last year, Bob, they were together because of skill. This year they've reached new heights because of their defensive commitment, and the biggest beneficiary has been Alfredson. He hasn't had to just kind of play back and cover up for them defensively.
Oh my goodness, 2 bone-jarring hits. Volchenkov floored Adam Mayer twice in about 20 seconds. Mayer, though, would have it no other way. A rugged customer.
May I have another?
He loves it. Spot check, deals it for Gaustad to the front for Pominville. He was in the crease there with Ray Emery. Didn't get a blade on that. Approaching the 5-minute mark of period 2. 2-1 for the Senators. Spot check forced away by Saprikin. Wing to wing for Schubert as he slaps that one. It broke the hockey stick of Thomas Vanek. Gostad delivers for Afinogenov. Driving wide. Afinogenov turns the cooker. He almost caught Emery fishing there.
And Emery's one of the guys that will bite on that near side deke, and then you can get around the net.
Saprikin jets back, and a speedy Derek Roy is right there with him. Back behind the cage, Kalinin fencing with Kelly. Even strength now, 5-on-5, and Vanek will stroll through center. Emery on the handle. Ray Emery just oozing confidence in the first 2 rounds for the Senators as they put away the Penguins and Devils in 5. Neal tried to chip it back for Vermette. That was Steve. And the chant here at HSBC Arena is "Let's go Buffalo." Kelly pumps one off the defense. Kalinin giving up his body there. Corvo creeping in from the point. Waved at by Numanen. Afinogenov peels off the play. Pricing will shoot it from any angle. 6 minutes deep. Senators on the road and on the lead by 1 in game 1. As Pricing will retreat, Emery will help his own cause. Both teams in the midst of a line change. Pricing drops it off for Spezza, then looking rink wide for Heatley. Lutman lines him up. Spezza took his eyes off that rolling biscuit. And Jochen Hesch will race back through center with Zubras. Zubras streaming in there, drew the penalty. It's covered up. Sabres go to the power play. Other side of the break, Lindy Ruff will be with Bob Harwood on Versus.
Back in Buffalo with the Sabres down 2-1 on the bench with Lindy Ruff. Another chance to work on power play. Will you simplify, do you think? Is that a key right now?
Well, I don't know if it's simplified. We've got to be a lot better on retrievals. We haven't been very good. We've given up some odd-numbered situations. If you win those battles, a lot of other things will happen.
Lindy, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Joe.
Bob, thanks very much. Darren, it is Tom Pricing in the box again for the 2nd time.
And forced because of some good work in transition by the Buffalo Sabres. Hooking at the crease. Buffalo back on the power play.
Drury digging in there against Vermette, and Vermette wins the face-off, and the Senators will roll. Vermette working wide, poke check there by Connolly, the forward who plays the power play point for Lindy Ruff. And Lindy Ruff, back in that series against the Rangers, asked his gang to work harder on the manpower advantage, and it was specific to that word retrieval. Get it back.
It's very important to any power play, but we saw on the Senators power play, they were better at those puck retrievals, winning the stick battles. When Buffalo's going well, they're doing those kinds of things, outnumbering in the corner. But the Senators, on their penalty kill, very aggressive to look for the offensive chance. So I think they backed Buffalo off a little bit.
Really was a good example of it as the Sabres work through center. McCammon riding hurt on Drury. 70 seconds on the manpower advantage for Buffalo. They trail by 1 on home ice. McCammon dribbles that one easily to the doorstep of Ryan Miller. Then got his own rebound. And fans at HSBC Arena continue to mutter.
They're all power play coaches right now.
Afinogenov looking to create with Roy at the line. Good poke check by Redden. A forced pass to the front. Peter Schaefer says thanks very much.
Do you think many of these power play specialists in attendance would be talking about retrievals right now? Fans just want to see shots on goal.
Wind up and crank it. Here's one guy who could do that. Kotelik sends it in. Lindy Ruff is saying we need to do a better job of feeding him in his wheelhouse. See if that happens. Vanek to the front with Redden on guard. Kotelik thought about the blast, then put the pass too hot to handle for Derek Roy. And Buffalo's got to chase again. Quickly we move towards the 9-minute mark of period 2. All the scoring in this one. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final coming back in the first. Kelly turns the cooker. Thumped along the wall by Sabre winger Jason Pominville. Vanek was tracked there at the attacking line. Emery will give his buddies a chance to catch their breath. Our Dodge storyline from here in Western New York featuring the tallies tonight.
You talked about all the scoring in the first. Short-handed Fisher, offense on the power play, but Afinogenov gets the Sabres back in it before the conclusion of the first 20 minutes.
Brian Miller, who's never lost a game one in the Stanley Cup playoffs, tangling with Daniel Alfredsson and the high-flying Senators. I realize it's past history, but when these two teams met a season ago in round two in game one, the Senators lost the lead 5 times in one game.
Yeah, we did that game on Versus, and it was a seesaw affair. It was great theater.
Ludman right to the front, he scores!
And right on cue, Joe, we're talking about last year. Fast forward to this year, a face-off win. Ludman down the wall, nobody takes him. He calls his own number. Good luck, Nikon goal cam. Emery, oops. Right between the pads, he went to push, but he did not make the save. Ludman ties it up, and this place is going bonkers.
Fisher and Alfredsson first for the visiting Senators. Finneganov and Ludman back-to-back for the Sabres. And we are brand new, just about midway through regulation time. Gostad will clear it in. During the regular campaign, the Sabres came from 2 goals down 10 times to win. They put pressure on Emery again, and he'll melt this one in the crease.
Sabres always able to come back from 2 goals 29 times in the regular season. And that just means that they know how to keep bringing it, even from the back line. And that's it, defenseman Tony Ludman, top of the paint, off a face-off win. A nice walk down the wall. Good read by Ludman. So much offense nowadays generated by face-off wins.
Half of the back line for Buffalo. 3 of the 6 guys there have scored in the playoffs. As Spacek and Tallinder and Newman await their first marker. Ludman now has 2 this playoff spring. Campbell will pitch it back to center, and Chris Phillips will play. Phillips on for Kelly. Kelly further still for Vermette. Kodalik delivers for Spacek. Waits for the screen to develop, and guess who blocked that? Anton Volchenkov, who led the league in block shots. He grew up a goalie. Vermette got behind the D. Good hustle by Kodalik, but he tied him up. And he's going to get a penalty for high sticking.
Beautiful feed. Kelly through the middle. Vermette with his speed. Kodalik with the original hook. Ottawa doing some excellent slash skating between the blue lines. And when we talk about slash skating, Joe, heading to the open ice, putting pressure on the guy who's charged with the back check. This time was Alex Kodalik. Brian Murray's gang doing a real good job of getting their feet moving without the puck.
Both of these teams like to look for creases. They like to look for seams. It helps to ignite their offense. As Sabre fans have to wince once more, the Ottawa power play gets put back into effect. Corbo walking the line. Alfredsson fires that one, and it took a bite out of Ludman. It will ricochet all the way back onto the Ottawa half. Corbo played out west a season ago. The Western Conference Final gets underway tomorrow at Joe Louis Arena. The Red Wings and the Ducks, and that should be another thriller.
How surgically precise were the Red Wings in dispatching San Jose Sharks on their home ice. We did that game Monday night. They were impressive.
And it feels like the Ducks have been off for a month. They'll have to get into gear swiftly under Randy Carlyle. Drury on a lead. Spoiled there by Corbo. 1:15 to operate on the manpower advantage for Ottawa. 9.5 to go, second period. And it's loud again inside of HSBC Arena. Alfredsson snakes his way. Little pass off the wall to himself. End boards to Heatley. Feathered on back for Corbo towards the cage. Golfed out of there by Newman, but not out yet. Alfredsson chopped at by Tallinder. Daniel Alfredsson skipping along the goal line. Alfredsson with puck protection. Great movement. And Miller likewise on the other end.
Outstanding reading of the play. Daniel Alfredsson, the fans loving. Miller has to read it all the way around the horn. And that's what a goalie does. He watches the puck. He's aware of everybody else, but you're tuned in to the puck. and Miller came up with a great save moving right to left.
Before the game, we see him go through that visualization routine, and I would imagine he's working through sequences like that.
I called it great. We use that term a lot. It was great because of what we showed you, how he had to read the whole play. He made it look relatively easy.
Jochen Hesch lost the draw to Fisher. Pricing connecting with Mazzaros. Comrie coming that one back behind the cage. Senators and Sabres tied up at 2 in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final. Exclusively yours on Versus. As this one's jabbed away by Miller, putting that rebound to a spot. Trying to help the penalty killers who have to work another 14 seconds. Long range blast by Mazzaros went wide. Combination passing play from Fisher. That was intercepted. Campbell will send it on back, and that'll do it in the minor to Codely.
And Campbell saw Hesch breaking for open ice, but he opted for the dump in to get fresh bodies out there.
Spot check hurriedly away from the forecheck of Fisher to the front. Nobody home for the Senators. It triggers the counterattack for Alex Codely. Stalled by Phillips, who has been a tower of strength in the playoffs. Connolly shaking loose, fires! Good blocker pad save by Emery.
That may be his best save of the game.
Boy, Connolly has great shake in open ice. Emery paddles it for Volchenkov. Roy swarming in now to Linder on the trigger. Stopped by Emery, and the rebound was juicy there. Fans wanting a call as Briere was dumped. Roy got lassoed too, and this one does draw the penalty. Sabres to the power play. On the other side of the break, we'll hear from the Ottawa bench and John Paddock after these.
2-2 tie in Buffalo on the Ottawa bench with assistant John Paddock. I know you want aggressiveness. Do you have to rein your guys back in right now in terms of penalties taken?
Well, they're not aggressive penalties. There's penalties. The aggressive penalties are boarding or cross-checking or something like that. We're taking hooking penalties. The biggest thing is we're not getting the puck in deep in their zone, and we're letting them counterattack.
John, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe.
Guys, thanks very much.
And there
Here's the
it
latest infraction on Phillips.
And that's Chris Phillips. Free hand. And then down goes Derek Roy, making it look very good. Actually clamping that armpit down on the hockey stick. He's one of the better embellishers in the game.
Keith Jones, Bill Clement, Ryan Englund back at Hockey Central pointing out that Derek Roy line has really been going for the Sabres. And they're the ones who earned the power play chance for Buffalo. Spot check angling out of his own end. Finneganov marching right into the fallen Chris Kelly. Volchenkov taps it along, and Kelly will clear as Brian Murray is asking for the line change. 6:55 to go in period 2. This is game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final. Real good one shaping up between the Sabres and Senators. Two teams that know each other all too well from their Northeast Division battle. Vanek back behind the cage, chased by Volchenkov. The slot was vacant there. Alfredson lunging after spot check. Sabres here at home in the blue. That pass from Vanek was intercepted. McCammon darting down the wing against Pominville. Richter snapped wide. Phillips lost to the Senators for another 48 seconds. Ottawa in the white here will play keep away.
Completely discombobulated are the Sabres. And you have to give the Senators an awful lot of credit because they are putting pressure in all three zones, even when they're a man down. And it's causing the biggest consternation of the night for the Sabres is their work on the power play.
Frustrating them time after time. Redden along the wall with Drury. Briere is drifting back behind the cage. That pass never arrived. Drury finds Campbell at one point. 10 ticks left in the manpower advantage, and Schaefer will deal with that.
And part of that, Joe, is you talked about how familiar these teams are with one another. Sometimes the Senators are in the spot before the Sabre offensive player is.
Hately winds up and fires. That was padded away by Miller. He made that look easy.
And
it wasn't.
It wasn't. Heatley can bring it.
He has an unusual windup, doesn't he, Darren? It's a straight up vertical kind of blast. I'm sure we'll see it quite a bit as this series moves along. Bill Clement on the other side of the break on Versus. Bill, thanks. We are here in Buffalo where the Sabre fans desperately want the cup in this playoff spring. They were derailed from a Stanley Cup pursuit a season ago by the eventual champion Carolina Hurricanes in the 7th game of the Eastern Final. They're back there again with their old friends, the Ottawa Senators. Heatley from the sharp angle. Good glove save by Ryan Miller.
And that's more the way this period started for this line at even strength. They haven't done much at even strength, the Senators. Start the second period, they did, and right there, it may look like a steep angle shot, but that was well played by Miller, and excuse me, well placed by Heatley.
Danny Heatley, who led all point scorers in round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs with 10, and did severe damage to the Sabres during the regular season. Tries to stuff it here. Gostad met him at the post. 4:45 away from that Verizon Wireless intermission report. Are we on Versus? Pominville getting away from trouble in front of his own cage, sends it out for Hesh. Hesh was marked there by Mazzaros. Gostad continues the thrust. Wrapped up by the back check. Danny Heatley doing the honors. Belander walks in, fires! That was stopped in front. A maze of bodies protecting Ray Emery, who's had wonderful success against the Sabres in the regular season at 9-2. We get a whistle here, and it looks like a cross-checking call coming from Bill McCreary.
Talked about Danny Heatley in this postseason. Outstanding points in 6 straight games against Buffalo. Joe, in the regular season, you alluded to that as well. 18 points. Only Joe Sakic with 20. Had more. Hesht with the cross-check. End of a shift in the neutral zone. There's the battle. There's the cross-check, the push in the back. Not the kind of penalty you want to take. Saprikin goes down. Hesht goes to the box. Puts a lot of pressure on the penalty killers. Ottawa has been good on the special teams.
Senators, if you're just tuning in with us this Thursday night, game 1 of the Eastern Final. Senators wearing their white sweaters. Game 2 of this series will be ours exclusively on Versus. We'll have it for you Saturday night from right here. As Corvo meanders into the offensive zone, Miller marking out the traffic instructions. Belander puts it high on the glass, but not past Bryson. We'll have to rebound and recoil right now. Ooh, Fisher stubbed a pass. A backhand chance for Drury that fluttered high. Sabres mangled there by Fisher in the corner. 3.5 away from our Verizon Wireless intermission report. 1:18 to go in the Ottawa power play. Ludman measured by Comrie, and Roy finds space to clear. Joe Corvo ready to set sail. We'll watch him all the way back through center. Spezza with momentum. Spezza, nice look. Alfredson whip. Snap wrister. Good save, Ryan Miller, as he beat the sharpshooter Heatley again.
Good way to put it. Heatley's had his looks, Joe.
Such a great release. As the Sabres send Ottawa packing once more. Hesh in the box for another 35 seconds. Alfredson feeds the wing. They love to get it to Heatley on the advance. Ludman keeps an eye on him. Switch it up for Spezza now to the front. Alfredson back door looking for Heatley. He was tied up by 2 defenders. Spezza one more time. Heatley robbed by Miller. The combinations, the passing on the outside to the inside for the Senators on the power play has been real good.
Especially with that top line, Joe. I mean, they are so in tune with one another right now. Right now, Ryan Miller has 4 grade A saves on Danny Heatley alone.
To keep it a 2-2 hockey game, back to 5-on-5 play. Closing in with a wrister, that was deflected wide. It was Heatley at the tail end of a shift. Newman in for the Sabres. Coughed it up. Long wrister from Vermette. Now Ryan Miller will seize it and give his guys a chance to change.
Ryan Miller, brilliant. And again, beyond the numbers. Competitive, combative. Look at him reading, following, flat paddle down in case anything comes in. That's a Good sequence there for a goaltender, and he didn't even have a shot on goal. You saw how hard he's working down low.
Already with 22 stops in this contest during the regular season, a 40-game winner, Ryan Miller. Backstopping the Sabres to the best record in the NHL.
I have to give him full marks though, because you can tell it's not his nature to be accessible. He's so focused, and you don't want to call him dour, but he makes himself available every game day.
Focused, a really good word. 1:39 to go in period 2. As for Buffalo, on the way to a huge point total, as you can see. We review their campaign.
It helps to have a focused and productive goaltender, especially when you're looking at offense all the time, leaving your goalie exposed a little bit. 430 goal scorers, 1 on each line. Now that is depth.
53 wins as a result. A franchise record for Buffalo. They've rewritten that record in consecutive seasons.
Back-to-back 50-win seasons, first time in franchise history.
Connolly for the Sabres, looking to the wing for Daniel Briere. This wing position gives Briere a little more running room as he turns wide on Phillips. Totally drops it off for Connolly. Those two have had chemistry and success in the past. That's why they've been reunited for Lindy Ruff. Totally working the cycle. Briere steps away from Phillips to the front. That was blocked away. Follow-up chance, and Emery sprawled to beat Briere. Last minute in the second period. The Sabres have rallied to tie the Senators at 2. Campbell on a lead. Deflection try, and Emery ready to beat Pominville at the post.
Details, line changes. You get to the bench quicker, you get on offense quicker. Chance at the top, poked. Briere, Volchenkov, and the goaltender Emery down to make the save. Buffalo with pressure. Emery keeps it out of the net with a little help from his friends. Big series for Ray Emery against the offensively challenged New Jersey Devils.
And from a confidence standpoint, Emery knows he's the #1 this year, and he has taken to that role very, very nicely for Brian Murray. Last year at this time, he was looking over his shoulder for Hasek. Point blank, 2 big stops there. A wild scramble in the last minute of the second period, and no harm done for the Senators.
Timely saved. Emery hasn't had much to do. Hasn't been the busiest in this game, but that's a big time save there.
30 seconds to go in the middle frame. Fans continue to serenade Emery. No particular hurry on the breakout now. Down to 15 remaining in period 2. Mazzaros playing catch with Redden. Good little chip play to the inside for Kelly. Toledo was there. Vermette didn't get a lot of wood on that. 3 seconds to go in the period. And the Sabres will be content to keep it to the outside as the horn goes. Done with 40 minutes. The Sabres have figured out Ray Emery for a pair of tallies. In succession, it was a Finnegan off and Ludman. At the other end, Ryan Miller, only bested by Mike Fisher and Daniel Alfredson in this thriller in Game 1, shaping up for a very interesting final 20 minutes. Stay with us. The Verizon Wireless Intermission Report is coming up. Back at Hockey Central, we'll turn you over to Bill, Keith, and Brian after the break.
To the conference final last year, does that make you better prepared in terms of what you have to do? Because Lindy Ruff's contention is, if you thought you were good last round, you have to be better this round. And he says, I think we know what it takes.
Lindy always seems to be trying to strip away some of the accolades from his team so that they don't get too big-headed.
He's been doing that since training camp. And to their credit, the Buffalo Sabres have remained infinitely focused on getting back to where they believe they should be, and that's the Stanley Cup final.
Here we go, third and final frame, regulation time, Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final. Ray Emery gets right back into it with a glove save. Just 17 seconds into the third, we're deadlocked at 2.
Dinas Zubris out there quite a bit. And a different night from a time on ice standpoint for a lot of forwards. If you don't kill penalties, your minutes are down through 40 minutes.
The biggest hits of the evening have come from Ottawa defender Anton Volchenkov. We expected that there would be a couple of blockbusters in this one this evening.
He does put a jolt. I think his name is Volchenkov, the way he can crush people.
His timing is so good. It's so much leverage. Redden racing after that one. It's yanked on back down the flank. Hesh was guarded by Mazzaros. Alfredson throws it to the blind side for Spezza, and away come the Senators as they wear the white sweaters. They'll do it again on Saturday night for Game 2, which you will see exclusively on Versus. Heatley trying the other side. Talinder and Alfredson, a pair of Swedes there in that foot race. The chant is "Let's go Buffalo." Spezza to the front. Oh! Magnificent stop by Miller. Absolute larceny on Danny Heatley.
Well, remember last round, the matchup was Jaromir Jagr and Ryan Miller, the personal one-on-one. Lindy Ruff said, if you thought you were good last round, you're going to be better this round. Miller on Heatley in this game so far, magnificent and better than what he was against Jagr. And that's hard to believe because Miller is pretty darn good.
My word, that was fantastic. Phillips jets his way back on for Comrie. Comrie gets stalled at the line. Totally trying to dig it free. Schaefer with it. Back behind the cage. Connolly puts a forearm on him. Along the woodwork, they battle for it. Early stages of period 3. Scoreboard even at 2. As this one leaves the rink, it was deflected. Linesman Dvorsky says it was tipped, so there will be no delay of game. Back to that stop by Ryan Miller moments ago.
Spezza, a magician with the puck. Heatley going to the spot. Talinder was on him. But watch this save. A little push and a little flick with the left skate. And that's all it took for Miller to have his first quality save of this third period. He's had many in this game thus far.
That super slow-mo look made that save look so nice and easy. Not quite. Kelly bombs away. That one was routine for Ryan Miller. The 50-year pro guarding the cage for Buffalo. Former Hobie Baker Award winner, college hockey at Michigan State.
Well, you bring up a good point. Technology helping everybody watching at home see the save, but you might lose the degree of difficulty in the process.
That was a bang play. Campbell will turn. Spot check with Neal chasing. Moving towards the 3rd minute of period 3. Redden so good on the outlets, finding Schubert. Schubert on the crisscross, just scooped it into space. And the Sabres will capture. Revving it up back through center. Afinogenov not going very far. McCannon's been one of the unsung heroes for the Senators in the postseason, as this is offside on the rush.
I talked about the total time on ice moments ago. Daniel Briere hit hard by the fact that he does not kill penalties. Not a second. 9.5 minutes roughly his team was shorthanded, so that's what eats into his penalty minutes. 10 minutes apiece.
You think about Daniel Briere and you look at his stat sheet, nobody had more points at even strength than Briere during the regular season. Long wrister coming. Both of the Ottawa goals tonight, special teams. A shorthanded strike from Fisher, a power play goal from Alfredson. Ottawa had a 2-0 lead. Buffalo has erased it. Schubert driving. Long reach of Newmanen denied him access to the front. McCammon back behind the cage for Saprikin, as Kalinin quickly came to tend to him. Schubert loves to work the boards. Jostles it free. Sabres trying to go in transition. Nothing there yet. Oh, wow. What a hit by Mayer as he drills Saprikin. Kalinin lobbing it over the head, sending the Sabres away. 3-on-2 if they accelerate. Mayer closing in. Wrister denied. Emery held strong on the angle. As Mayer got rewarded for his physical play at one end.
Gostad set it up with a little hook and ladder play along the wall.
It's 2-2 and we check in with Bob Harwood.
Fellas, it's obviously going to be a matter of confidence from here on in, and certainly when the Sabres, if they do go on the power play again, have to realize just how aggressive Ottawa has been on the penalty kill. Brian McCutcheon behind the Sabres bench told us this is a team that gets in your face and makes you make decisions right away. Not necessarily, well, actually a different look from what they saw in the Rangers matchup. There's a guy in Paul Gostad who might be a factor if special teams become something the Sabres have to lean on, and by that I mean Chris Drury gets all that special teams time. 2 or 3 times earlier in the game, he's gone up. Gostad against Jason Spezza. Not always the ideal matchup, but the coaches love his aggressiveness. We saw him confident with the puck already along the boards on that last rush.
And they might be able to use him on the power play in front and change their look that way. They did that earlier in the year before his injury as well, Bob.
Bob Harwood downstairs, Joe Beninati, Darren Elliott upstairs here at HSBC Arena. Tip of the cap to all the men and women in our hard-working crew here at HSBC Arena. All the pedicure people in the truck. Long wrister coming to the front as Alfredson works the wing with Spezza to Linder in a four-man scrum. And Drury will get it on out. Hesh has some running room. Hesh winds and fires, and Emery way on top of the crease to challenge. Friends, a reminder, tomorrow night, 7:30, the Western Final Showdown gets underway on Versus. Game 1, the top seed Red Wings matching up with the Ducks. It's the Ducks and the Wings from Hockeytown tomorrow night. And then we're back with you in Buffalo Saturday, 8 o'clock Eastern for Game 2. Familiar faces that we will get adjusted to over the next couple of weeks. We expect this series to be a long one and a hard-fought one.
And there's a Tim Connolly, Daniel Greer, Alex Podolak line up there at even strength.
Podolak hooks it on back. Connolly's wrister knocked away by Volchenkov. It must seem like he's got shin pads that are 5 feet wide. Wrister coming, deflected wide of Miller. Volchenkov is so helpful to his netminders in terms of block shots.
He wanted to be a goaltender, as you mentioned, as a youngster, but the coach said, no, you're a defenseman. And his father grew up in the Red Army system in Russia, and he followed in his footsteps.
Schaefer trying to jump to the inside. A season ago, it was a huge open ice hit by Schaefer that ended the season for Tim Connolly. In the playoffs, Connolly didn't come back in the regular season till April for Buffalo. As a result of that hit, Afinogenov turning wide, Redden was there. Sharp angle, Afinogenov shut down by Emery, and he'll take no chances now.
That's been the goal line. Guys in the studio talked about it. Emery well aware of it. Afinogenov has that extra little lilt to his stride tonight. And when he does that, he's electrifying. He backs defensemen off and creates all kinds of room for his line mates.
When he scores, the Sabres usually win. 23 goals during the regular season, 21 of them came in Buffalo triumphs. That huge goal most recently in Game 5 of that Eastern semi, downing the Rangers. As we are past the 6-minute mark of the period number 3.
That was a big goal, but one of the best celebrations I've seen in a long time as he dove into the pool. Used the center ice logo as the pool.
Just going for a little swim. A victory lap.
Celebration dive.
Afinogenov gets through the check of Redden. Afinogenov on the backhand right to the front. He got chopped down. No penalty call as the net is knocked from its moorings. We'll step away from HSBC Arena. It's raucous inside and outside on the plaza. More of this Eastern Final your way on Versus.
Danny Heatley of the Ottawa Senators. You're watching the NHL playoffs on Versus. Do or die.
Danny Heatley, pretty matter of fact, sizing up this series.
He's been sizing up his shots on goal. The line has 6 of the 9 scoring chances. And we call it the line right now with Spezza and Alfredson. Heatley has 4 of the 6 of the line, so he's typically the guy that's set up to shoot.
Ludman walks in there, and it was Heatley on the back check that bothered him. Linder guides it back through center. Heatley will pounce on that and swat it along for Spezza. Something's got to give. Neither of these teams has been behind in any series in the playoffs this spring. As Zubris works his way on back, neither of these teams has lost a game in which it has scored first. It was Ottawa on the board with the first 2 tallies. If you're just joining us this Thursday night, the Sabres have responded with 2 of their own, and down the stretch we go with 12:45 to go in regulation. Lazzaros on for McCammon. McCammon trying to dribble through defenders, and Kalinin says, Saprikin right in there on the forecheck. Kalinin spins it back to center. Ottawa will rewind. Ryan Miller in the duel with Ray Emery. For the front deflection, score! Well done for Sabrikin on the tip.
Weak side. Lindy Ruff's guys got caught. They're usually so aware. Sabrikin comes off the wall. It looks like a pretty sleepy play. They reverse it. Sabrikin's way left. And he gets there first. Back on goal cam, you can see Sabrikin knifing the puck past Ryan Miller on the deflection. He got to the spot before Kalinin and Teppo Numminen did.
So Oleg Sabrikin bags his 4th in the postseason of his career. He has benefited from the injury to Patrick Eaves, the concussion, the neck injury that Eaves sustained back in round 1 when railed by Colby Armstrong of Pittsburgh. And Sabrikin has given the visiting Senators the advantage. With just over 12 to go in the 3rd.
First point of this playoff season.
Scouts always point to his skill set, Darren, the ability to skate and stick handle. And right there, working well in traffic for that redirect.
Well, that's been the knock against him, that he won't go into traffic enough. Well, he did there, and he has his team on top.
Pominville will clear it on down. Jason Pominville, the hero for the Sabres in their win over Ottawa last year in round 2. Campbell racing there to beat Neal to it. Campbell speeds through center with a Finnegan off. A Finnegan off, looking for a passing lane. Corvo would not afford him one, as there's a whistle and a stoppage in play. There was plenty of traffic in front of Ray Emery. The Stanley Cup playoffs, with respect to history, you got to go back 37 years and you find a very special moment for Beantown and Bobby Orr.
And there's one of the most famous images. Bobby Orr scoring the game-winning goal on Glenn Hall, flying through the air after he delivers that goal.
On this day, 1970, and the Boston Bruins win a Stanley Cup. The legendary Bobby Orr, way ahead of his time. Finnegan off, marked by Vermette. Finnegan off, fans on a centering feed, keeping those feet moving on the outside. Roy towards the cage, it was knocked down as Emery got a knee pad in the way. 9 minutes gone by, period 3. The only goal in the frame just moments ago. Sabrikin at 7:41, giving the Senators the advantage. This Ottawa team continue to be a tough out on the road in the playoffs. They've won 7 of their last 9 away from Scotiabank Place.
Well, for all the good they did, though, they gave up more third-period leads. Off the iron, I believe, than anybody except the Colorado Avalanche. 5 times they had the lead in the 3rd and lost in regulation during the regular season. But they're playing with a lot more confidence now, are the Ottawa Senators.
And this is what we were referring to, their commitment to team defense. To protect a 1-goal lead against the highest scoring team in the league.
And you don't do it by sitting back, you do it by skating and taking good defensive position, inside position.
Connolly looping his way into the attack. A wrister that was foiled by Redden. Good keep by Tallinder. He'll blast it right off of Alfredson and he'll march away. All by his lonesome 1-on-3. The Senators captain will gladly dump it in. 9:50 to go. Tallinder taking his sweet time. Crisply on for Drury. On the mark there for Hecht. Spins from Corvo's grasp. To the corner, Drury tied up by Pricing. Corvo plays the wall. Schubert did not get it out. Spot check towards the crease. Loose in front there. Drury did not get a handle on it. Takeaway, Campbell. Out wide. Campbell to the front. Loose there for a moment. Schubert pounced on it and again did not clear. Or did he? It's a delayed offside that's washed out now as the Sabres tag up. McCammon strides through center. Casually, wide of Miller. Shots on goal. Sabres have 19 in the contest, 29 for Ottawa, unofficially. Back through center, jammed only as far as Campbell. Phillips with Gaustad close by. Two teams at even strength working 5-on-5. The Sabres have misfired on 5 power plays tonight. Gaustad lost it. Fisher finding some room. Comrie tried to tap it back to center ice. Mayer there in hot pursuit. Gaustad heaves it right on, and Emery makes the save, then comes out with a right cross jab. It is 3-2 for the Ottawa Senators. Oleg Saprikin on the board. On the other side of the break, Hockey Central and Bill Clement. Thank you, Bill. We are enjoying a good one in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final. Ottawa has the 3-2 advantage with 8.5 to go in regulation time. Sabres faithful, almost 19,000 of them here, getting loud, trying to inspire their favorite team. A long send away for Chris Neal. Swatted to safety by Ryan Miller. Then coughed up. Kelly looking to Vermette to the front. Padded away by Miller. It was headed wide to the goal. Volchenkov pinching in from a point position. Wow, Neal comes a-running, and he freight trained down a Finneganov. Neal looking to the front. Sabres clear. Vanek is out there now for Lindy Ruff. Vanek, a man who was benched during the postseason quite a bit last year. Took it to heart, came back in tremendous condition, fortified himself for the battles of the NHL, and had a bang-out season. 7:46 to go. Regulation, when you think about these two, you think overtime and last spring.
That was in Game 1. The 7-6 seesaw affair. But it didn't end there. J.P. Dumont, and this ended the series. Palmenville shorthanded around the captain. Daniel Alfredson got the edge. And then all the way across in front against Emery.
16 times they've matched up. 11 times in the playoffs. It's been a 1-goal game. The Sabres have actually won the last 5 overtime matchups against the Senators, should they get there tonight.
And if you're looking for hope and you're a Sabres fan, second worst winning percentage in 1-goal games in the regular season, the Ottawa Senators.
That's right, they're usually on the business at blowouts.
They had more games, as you said, where they scored won by 3 or more goals than anybody else.
Different world now, though. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs.
All the way around, exactly.
Exclusive coverage on Versus. Joe Beninati, Darren Elliott. Upstairs, Bob Harwood working ringside for us tonight. Just over 7 minutes to go in period 3. Sabres in the homestanding blue. Game 2 of this series Saturday on this ice sheet. Pass to the goal mouth. Alfredson on guard. That one was fluttered over the top of Emery's head. Should be an easy clear now for Mazzaro.
But they do look to spring, don't they, on puck possession? And that's what I'm talking about. They won more games, 24 and all, by 3 or more goals. They're better defensively, but they don't sit back. They counterattack quickly. They still put pressure.
We mentioned it at the outset of this telecast tonight. The 2 highest scoring teams in the NHL as Phillips wins the race. It's icing against Buffalo. 2 high-powered, high-octane offenses, and the Sabres would like to see Daniel Briere come to life.
A guy who can check both up the ice and into the boards. Chris Neal, he's been relatively quiet. So is Daniel Briere. He has not been out there in many situations and haven't called his name very much tonight.
Prone to the big helpers. Just a single goal against the Senators during the regular season for Briere. Here he is, 48 in the blue. Scuttles it into the Senator zone. Expect to see a lot of Phillips and Volchenkov in the final 6 minutes. As Brian Murray comes to depend upon them as his shutdown pair.
They allowed Zdeno Chara to free agency to the Boston Bruins, and they didn't lose a thing.
Long pass, and it's offside as Briere was a little over-anxious.
And what I mean by that, Zdeno Chara, a fine player, but they got Volchenkov, and they got Chris Phillips, steps up. Now he's their #1 guy. Volchenkov now for Brian Murray. They thought that he could be good, and he proved him right.
Brian said that the back line has more mobility this year from cover to cover.
Piece it together, but Chris Phillips was a revelation. You see him there just going to the bench. He's always been one of those guys, yeah, he was a shutdown guy, but now he is the guy. And he has blossomed and flourished, I would guess is the right way to put it, in that role.
And Phillips is healthy now. He's had so many problems with injuries. Elbows and shoulders come to mind right away. Whoa, as Emery has to paddle that one below the goal line. Both of these teams are in excellent health as the Senators are close to getting Eaves back. An icing call here against Ottawa. We'll have you back to HSBC in just a moment on Versus.
The NHL Stanley Cup playoffs on Versus are brought to you by Esurance. Make it your goal to save on auto insurance. Visit esurance.com today. And by AT&T, the new leader in wireless. And by the Nikon D40. See how a whole town was transformed at stunningnikon.com/picturetown.
On a Thursday night in Buffalo, outside of HSBC Arena on the Plaza, Sabre fans are still rooting for their favorite team to come back in this 3-2 deficit to visiting Ottawa. Fisher and Alfredson gave the Senators a 2-0 lead. Afinogenov and Lutman tied it. But here in the third, Oleg Saprikin at 7:41 from Dean McCammon, giving the Senators the advantage as they try to steal away home ice. The quick reverse for Campbell, who's always encouraged to be the fourth guy in the rush. Sometimes he's the first. Phillips didn't handle that cleanly. Fisher comes to support him. Fisher looped it over the head, now creates a 2-on-2 for himself. Fisher driving in there with a backhand, and there's a penalty call coming. Referee Brad Watson has the infraction against Buffalo, and this will hurt any comeback attempt.
This is exactly what you're talking about, Joe. Spearheading the attack is Brian Campbell. Forced to play defense is Derek Roy. Panicked is Derek Roy. He takes the penalty on the hard-charging Mike Fisher.
Second time Derek Roy has taken a seat in the penalty box, this time for tripping. And Lindy Ruff's gang will have to kill with 5:11 to go in the third.
Not exactly a scowl by Lindy Ruff, but he's not happy that his guys didn't get that puck in deep. It's one thing for your defenseman to engage, but you still have to get the puck in deep so a turnover doesn't end up costing you like it just did.
During the regular season, Ryan Miller lost 4 of 5 decisions to Ottawa. Senators trying to get the jump on him here in the Eastern Conference Final. Lubman did not get that one deep. Corbo will team up with Redden as we drift below 5 minutes to play in regulation with the Stanley Cup playoffs exclusively on Versus. Alfredson up in arms with Lubman. Heatley comes back to the point for Corbo. To a better shooting lane now. Corbo finessed around Zubris. Heatley will fetch. Danny Heatley tables it for Redden. They play the two-man game around Drury. Goal line. Alfredson, the captain, for Corbo. Waiting for the screen. Redden fires. Chested down. Backhand chance. Oh, they were raising their arms. Alfredson looked like he had a layup. Spezza maneuvers one back. Redden closing in. That was stopped. Rebound. Score!
Miller finally bested by Heatley. 6 quality scoring chances alone for Danny Heatley. He finally gets one the hard way. Daniel Alfredson took 2 punishing hits in this sequence to keep the play alive. He's been playing more physical. It paid off in offense. Danny Heatley gets the goal. Daniel Alfredson did all the heavy lifting. And that was after missing. You saw Alfredson just missed, as you said. He thought he scored, but he stayed with it. And now that puts the Sens on top by 2.
Players always talk about Danny Heatley's hands. Oh. He handled that little half volley quite well. Out of the air, skipping it past Miller. Another power play goal for Ottawa. And a 4-2 advantage for the Senators has quieted the sellout crowd in Buffalo.
Ottawa goal scored by number 15, Patty Deacon.
Spot check heading back up ice. Connolly took his eyes off of it. Fisher was drawing a bead on him. A 2-goal bulge for the Senators. This Ottawa team that was in command from the outset in both of their first 2 rounds of playoff series against Pittsburgh and against New Jersey. This one leaves the rink. No penalty call as the officials confer. Danny Heatley has potted number 6 in the springtime.
7 straight games with points in the postseason. Visiting with him this morning, he sure seems at ease. Maturity shows itself in many, many forms and fashions. And he seems comfortable in his own skin, more and more so with each successive year.
Danny Heatley among the NHL leaders when it came to game-winning goals during the regular campaign. A couple of other guys named Solani and Zetterberg, who will square off in the Western Final, join Heatley in that regard. Game 1 of the Western Conference Final comes tomorrow on versus from Detroit. Tallinder with a wrister that went wide. Numminen also misfiring with 3:05 to play in the 3rd period. Tallinder hammers it in from center. Around the turnstile looking for Kodali. He was bothered by Redden, and Wade Redden will do the honors to send Buffalo back into its own end.
And it's one thing to hear all the talk and all the hype, but Ottawa, very impressive from the outset in this hockey game.
Darren, earlier in the night you pointed out these keys to the contest. How have they unfolded?
Well, the number one, this is the one that tells me that the Sabres have been out of sync. It's been mostly because of their lack of success in the power play. Just 20 shots on goal on home ice in game 1. Senators big line, they have done that, and the hit or be hit, that's been pretty even. But if you take a look at the big line producing for Ottawa, and then only 20 shots on goal for Buffalo, no surprise from that standpoint, from that measure, that the Sabres are losing this hockey game.
Yeah, you would think that that would be a bad formula for success if you're on the Buffalo side of things.
And you had your goaltender make outstanding saves into the 3rd period, and Ryan Miller hasn't been enough.
2 third-period tallies for Ottawa. Compliments of Saprikin and Heatley with 2:20 to go in regulation time. Schaefer crunched along the wall by Derek Roy. Roy dangerously in front of his own crease. Building some momentum now for the breakout. We'll keep an eye on Ryan Miller, see if Lindy Ruff will lift him for the extra attacker. With his team trailing by 2. Finnegan motoring in there. Fisher stays to him, stuck like glue.
Oh, Fisher's been good. He set a tone early. He scored the shorthanded goal, but he's just done everything within himself. You hear that cliche an awful lot. He hasn't extended himself. He's played a whale of a hockey game.
Really good two-way forward. Vanek with a beautiful move. Poke check at the last instant. Mazzaros came over to help. 1:35 to go in this 3rd period. Numminen bottled up there by Vermette. Teppo Numminen. Veteran blue liner, Finnish born. Knocks it loose for Pominville. Little chip and chase with Briere as Ryan Miller is on his way to the players bench. 6 attackers on. Kelly with the empty net yawning. Lost the handle, and he'll play it back behind the cage. 6 skaters on for blue-sweatered Buffalo. 4-2, Ottawa has the lead. Drury on the pass down the wing for Pominville. Attacked by Mazzaros. Point position, it comes. Ludman cranks it, deflected wide. Briere was all alone at the post. Final 50 seconds of the 3rd period. Ottawa trying to wrestle away the home ice advantage from the top-seeded Sabres in the East. Game 2 of this series comes Saturday night. And we'll have it for you on Versus. 35 seconds left with which to work for Briere. Skipping his way through center. Emery will tee it up and play it to the corner. Down to 25. Pass back for Ludman will go away. McCammon in a foot race with Ludman. 14 seconds left, and McCammon hits the empty cage to salt it. The Ottawa Senators come to Buffalo and are on their way to victory.
Empty net goals, by and large, are meaningless, but this is payoff for a fine hockey game by Dean McCammon. He started the game on the penalty kill, got a breakaway that was snuffed out by Ryan Miller, but all night long with so much special teams play on the penalty kill, he set the tone for the Senators early, And there he is again in a foot race, winning it and putting it to the back of the net. A little bit of payoff for some hard work throughout a hockey game.
This Ottawa team, they've mixed in more grit, more willingness to defend, and they are going to be a stiff challenge for the top seed in the East. The Ottawa Senators have put the wrap on a 5-2 victory in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final. Ray Emery gets congratulations from his mates, and it was the third period, Darren, that turned the tide.
Buffalo didn't play well, but they had a chance. But Ottawa, showing their maturity from one year to the next, they didn't panic. They got after it, and they got the job done in Game 1.
First serve goes to the Senators by the final count of 5-2. And Ray Emery picks up the victory with 18 stops and continues his mastery this year over the Sabres. For Darren Elliott, for Bob Harwood, for all the hardworking men and women in our production crew, I'm Joe Beninati, thanking you for your time. In just a few moments, we'll be heading back to Hockey Central for the Esurance postgame show as the Senators down the Sabres 5-2. And here now, Bill Clement.